Can we survive on Venus? Think for a moment. If I asked you which planet in our solar system closest to Earth, could we live on, you'd probably say Mars. And honestly, that's what most people in the world answer. Elon Musk says the same. NASA talks about Mars, but there's a planet we're completely ignoring. A planet similar to Earth in size, in gravity, and in distance from the Sun. That planet is Venus. But whenever anyone talks about Venus, you only hear one thing. It's hell. Nothing can happen there. The craziest part, though, is that some scientists believe life may have existed on Venus millions of years ago. And some are even saying life could exist there today. Sounds insane, right? But that's science. So today we'll answer, can we colonize Venus? Was there ever life there? And is something alive there right now that we don't yet know about? What is Venus? Venus is the second planet in our solar system after Mercury, before Earth, so Venus and Earth are neighbors. But neighbors can be very different, like your house having a sea while the neighbor's house is on fire. That's exactly Venus and Earth. Venus is only slightly smaller than Earth. If Earth is a cricket ball, Venus is like a tennis ball, almost the same. Venus's gravity is 90% of Earth's, so you'd feel slightly lighter there, but basically the same. Surface area, gravity, size, everything nearly matches. So what's the problem? The problem is Venus's atmosphere, and it's so deadly that without protection, you'd die in seconds in 3 different ways simultaneously. This isn't drama. It's pure science. Why is Venus's atmosphere so dangerous? Why is Venus's atmosphere so dangerous? Venus's surface temperature is 465 degrees Celsius, close to 500. To understand that, if you placed a lead rod on Venus's surface, it would melt. Because lead melts at 327 degrees Celsius and Venus is at 465 degrees Celsius. Metal melts there. And the most interesting part? This temperature stays the same at night, too. Venus rotates, sunlight turns off, but the temperature never drops. Why? Because Venus's atmosphere is 96% carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas that lets the T's out. Sun's heat in but doesn't let it escape, like a car parked in the sun. Scientists call this a runaway greenhouse effect, a greenhouse effect that went completely out of control. But temperature isn't Venus's only problem. Venus's atmospheric pressure is 92 times greater than Earth's. To put that in perspective, the water pressure you'd feel 900 meters deep in the ocean. That's the air pressure at Venus's surface. So without protection, a person would first be crushed by pressure, then burned by the temperature, and then the sulfuric acid clouds in Venus's atmosphere would dissolve them. Yes, Venus's clouds are made of sulfuric acid, not water, strong enough to melt your finger. Now you understand why scientists call Venus hell. It's literally a burning, crushing, acid-raining inferno. The twist: 50 kilometers above the surface. But here's the real twist, the reason I made this whole video. Going to Venus's surface is impossible. But go just 50 kilometers above the surface, and the environment changes completely. At that altitude, temperature is Y-50 degrees Celsius, Earth-like. Atmospheric pressure is almost Earth-like, and solar energy is abundant. So while Venus's surface is hell, at 50 kilometers altitude the conditions are almost like Earth's. This was discovered by Carl Sagan, who in 1967 proposed the idea of building human civilization in Venus's clouds. Today, scientists are seriously exploring this. NASA has a project called HAVOC, High Altitude Venus Operational Concept. The idea being to build floating cities in Venus's atmosphere not on its surface. How would a floating city work? Imagine a very large balloon, stadium-sized. Fill it with breathable air, which is much lighter than Venus's sulfuric acid atmosphere. So the balloon automatically floats upward, just like a light object floats on water. Beneath this balloon you could build an entire city, homes, labs, farms. This concept works because our breathable air is lighter than Venus's atmosphere. A sealed structure with normal air would automatically float at 50 kilometers altitude. Exactly like a boat floats on water because air inside is lighter than water. Where would resources come from? Oxygen. Through electrolysis of CO splitting carbon dioxide into carbon and oxygen, similar to splitting water into hydrogen and oxygen. Water. Venus's atmosphere has small amounts of water vapor that can be collected, and water can also be chemically extracted from the sulfuric acid clouds. Food. Hydroponics. Growing plants without soil, using only water and nutrients. Already used in cities on Earth. Energy. Venus is close to the Sun, so solar power is nearly twice as abundant as on Earth. Solar panels would easily power everything: electrolysis, oxygen production, water production, farming, city systems. So technically, if we build a floating structure at 50 kilometers altitude in Venus's atmosphere, humans could live there. It sounds like science fiction, but NASA engineers are seriously working on it. And comparing Venus versus Mars for colonization. Venus is actually better in several ways. Venus has 90% of Earth's gravity, Mars only 38%. Venus's atmosphere provides radiation protection, Mars has no magnetic field. And Venus gets far more solar energy than Mars. Did life ever exist on Venus? This is the most mind-blowing part. About 4 billion years ago, when our solar system was new, Venus was very different. Scientists believe it may have had liquid water, rivers, oceans. If water existed, temperatures weren't extreme. Since liquid water requires Y-100 degrees Celsius. NASA's Goddard Institute for Space Studies ran computer simulations and found that oceans could have existed on Venus for up to 2 billion years. In that same time frame on Earth, life evolved from bacteria all the way to dinosaurs. So life could definitely have developed on Venus too. Then what happened? This is a sad, dramatic story. A massive volcanic event likely triggered the runaway greenhouse effect. Volcanoes erupting one after another for millions of years, releasing enormous amounts of CO. Temperature rose, oceans evaporated. Water vapor, also a greenhouse gas, entered the atmosphere, raising temperatures further. Evaporating more water, a vicious cycle. A chain reaction that never stopped. All the oceans dried up, the atmosphere filled with CO, and a beautiful habitable planet became what we see today. If life existed on Venus and was wiped out in this catastrophe, it's one of the greatest tragedies in the universe, an entire planet, perhaps an entire civilization, lost in a slow-burning death. The Phosphine discovery 2020. In 2020,
सोचो एक पल के लिए, अगर मैं तुमसे पूछूं कि हमारे सोलर सिस्टम में अर्थ के सबसे नजदीक कौन सा प्लैनेट है जहां हम रह सकते हैं, तो शायद तुम्हारा जवाब होगा मार्स। और ऑनेस्टली यही जवाब दुनिया के ज्यादातर लोग देते हैं। इलॉन मस्क भी यही कहते हैं, नासा भी मार्स की बात करता है। लेकिन यार, एक प्लैनेट है जिसे हम पूरी तरह से इग्नोर कर रहे हैं। एक प्लैनेट जो साइज में अर्थ जैसा है, ग्रेविटी में अर्थ जैसा है और सन से डिस्टेंस में भी अर्थ जैसा है, और वो प्लैनेट है वीनस। लेकिन वीनस के बारे में जब भी कोई बात करता है तो एक ही बात सुनने मिलती है कि ये तो हेल है, नरक है, वहां कुछ नहीं हो सकता। लेकिन सबसे क्रेजी बात यह है कि कुछ साइंटिस्ट्स का मानना है कि वीनस पर आज से लाखों साल पहले शायद लाइफ एग्जिस्ट करती थी, और कुछ तो ये भी कह रहे हैं कि आज भी वीनस पर लाइफ एग्जिस्ट हो सकती है। सुनकर पागलपन लग रहा है ना, लेकिन यही साइंस है। तो आज हम इसी सवाल का जवाब ढूंढेंगे कि क्या हम वीनस को कॉलोनाइज कर सकते हैं, क्या वहाँ पहले कभी लाइफ थी, और क्या आज भी वहाँ कुछ जी रहा है जो हमें अभी तक पता नहीं। तो पहले समझते हैं कि वीनस है क्या और वो कैसा दिखता है। वीनस हमारे सोलर सिस्टम का दूसरा प्लैनेट है, यानी सन के बाद मर्क्यूरी आता है और उसके बाद वीनस और उसके बाद हमारी अर्थ। तो वीनस और अर्थ एक तरह से पड़ोसी हैं, लेकिन यार पड़ोसी भी कभी कभी बहुत अलग होते हैं ना। जैसे तुम्हारे घर में एसी हो और पड़ोसी के घर में आग जल रही हो, बिल्कुल ऐसा ही है वीनस और अर्थ का मामला। वीनस का साइज अर्थ से सिर्फ थोड़ा छोटा है। अगर अर्थ एक क्रिकेट बॉल है तो वीनस एक टेनिस बॉल जैसा है, लगभग सेम। वीनस की ग्रेविटी भी अर्थ की ग्रेविटी का 90% है। मतलब अगर तुम वीनस पर जाओ तो तुम्हें ऐसा लगेगा जैसे थोड़ा हल्का फील हो रहा है, लेकिन बेसिकली सेम ही रहेगा। तो सरफेस एरिया, ग्रेविटी, साइज सब कुछ ऑलमोस्ट मैच करता है। तो फिर प्रॉब्लम क्या है? प्रॉब्लम है वीनस का एटमॉस्फेयर, यानी उसके ऊपर का वातावरण। और ये एटमॉस्फेयर
Veritas detailed surface mapping plus ESAS Envision mission, all launching around 2031. If evidence of life is found, it would be one of the greatest scientific discoveries in history, implying life could be common across billions of planets in the universe. Terraforming Venus. Could we make Venus Earth-like? Venus's biggest problems are its CO atmosphere and extreme temperature. If we could remove the CO and replace it with nitrogen and oxygen, the temperature would automatically drop. Ideas include introducing acid-resistant algae into the atmosphere. Algae perform photosynthesis, absorbing CO and releasing oxygen. Over thousands of years, they could transform the atmosphere. Giant orbital mirrors placed around Venus to block some sunlight, reducing heat and gradually stabilizing the atmosphere. Technically possible, but requires resources we don't have yet, maybe. In 100 to 200 years, crashing a water ice asteroid into Venus to introduce water, triggering chemical reactions that change the atmosphere. The riskiest idea, since the impact energy itself would be catastrophic. Terraforming Venus would be a long, complex process, possibly thousands of years, but theoretically not impossible. Interesting Venus facts. Venus rotates backwards, retrograde rotation, so that sun rises in the west and sets in the east. A day on Venus is longer than its year. One complete day-night cycle takes about 243 Earth days, longer than Venus's orbital year. Venus has no moon. Like Mercury, it's completely alone. No moons at all. Sometimes I feel something strange thinking about Venus, a planet that was perhaps once beautiful, with oceans, perhaps with life, now burning alone in space without even a moon. The bigger lesson. Venus's story teaches us something beyond space science. It's a lesson about our own. Earth, the runaway greenhouse effect that happened on Venus could happen here too. If we keep burning fossil fuels, keep increasing CO in the atmosphere, Earth could slowly become Venus, not overnight, over thousands of years. But Venus is proof it's possible. Venus is Earth's dark mirror, showing us what our future could look like if we're not careful. So whenever someone ignores climate change, tell them Venus's story. The story of a planet that went from paradise to hell over billions of years. And Venus is still visible in our sky as the morning star or evening star. The brightest object at night, beautiful from the outside, but burning inside. Final thought. Venus's story teaches us that no planet is permanently habitable. Conditions change, planets change, and species that can adapt disappear. But it also teaches us that if we stay curious, keep asking questions, keep exploring, we can overcome challenges that once seemed impossible. Building a city in Venus's clouds seems impossible today. But 200 years ago, going to the moon seemed impossible. And 500 years ago, no one even knew the Earth was round. Impossible is just a word. Science slowly makes it possible, one step at a time. So stay curious. Keep asking questions. Keep looking toward planets like Venus. Because perhaps in the clouds of that burning planet, some of our biggest answers are hidden, answers that will tell us we're not alone, answers about where life can exist in the universe, and answers about how to save our own Earth. Keep watching Venus, because in Venus lies our past, our present, and perhaps our future.